Okay, I want to tell you a story called Who I Am. This story starts with a story about a time when I didn't really know myself. It started when I went to summer camp in 2013. I went to camp at my mom's job in Newark at the YMCA. I was one of the youngest kids in my group at camp because our group was 10 to 15-year-olds and I was 10. That summer I went to YMCA camp. I also went to a 1 week Lego robotics camp at Liberty Science Center. I was always a kid who was mature for my age, so I had no issues hanging out with the other kids. At the YMCA, I was constantly told, I talk funny, or I talk white. But I never really understood what that meant until I spent that week at Liberty Science Center. People never flat out told me I was different, but I was also the only kid who walked in Nike high tops and a snapback, unlike the other kids who wore khakis. When I went back to the YMCA, I soon realized I was stuck between two worlds. And if I wanted to succeed, I had to learn how to juggle my black identity with my intellectual identity. That was the day I learned how to read my surroundings. After that day, I learned that the me I am with my family is not the me I can be when I leave those safe places. It's the day I learned how to cover my identity based on my surroundings. I learned how to read a room properly, which was, and still is, quite difficult for me with my questionable social skills. I went into certain places and knew I had to become someone new. Especially when I went to educational camps over the summer, I wasn't only a female, but a black and Latina female, meaning my opinion was not always the most valued. As an ethnic minority, I learned how to downplay certain parts of myself, the parts that were easier to hide. I did something that many ethnic minorities do in order to fit in. Cover. Okay, so to explain covering, I have to back up a little. For this project, we had to read a book written by an expert on our topic called a mentor text. My mentor text was called Covering, The Hidden Assault on Our Civil Rights by Kenji Yoshino. My book speaks about this concept called identity covering. In essence, it is changing, downplaying, or magnifying certain parts of yourself to fit in an American society. You can cover racially, sexually, religiously, or in any other way that does not fit the standard mold of what an American is supposed to be. In my mentor text, there's a quote that I think says what I did very well. I wanted to show that I was like white people. Don't be afraid, I'm one of the good blacks. When you are forced to conform to the majority, you can lose yourself, bending over backward all the time to avoid making white people uncomfortable. As a girl who was good at math, I had a whole new set of issues. I was already a masculine female because I wore sneakers and pants every day. But when people remembered I was a girl, I got treated differently. I was left with this catch-22, as Yoshino explains it. A struggle between being masculine enough to have my opinion valued, but feminine enough to remind them I'm not a guy. These major parts of my identity that I was never able to hide led to me learning more ways to properly assimilate to a white male society. You can learn a lot about me by looking at me for 5 seconds. There's the obvious. I'm black, I'm a girl, I'm visually impaired. Those are the obvious things about me, but under the surface, I'm so much more. I'm a cheerleader, have been for 10 years. I want to be a mechanical engineer, work on spaceships or submarines or skyscrapers. I'm not entirely sure on that one yet. I aspire to be a proper sneakerhead with hundreds of sneakers, and I like all kinds of music because if you listen, someone is feeling the same as you. All of these things live within me simultaneously, but only a few people know that, and I guess all of you now. Most people only know a few details about me that make me me, because I only show them the parts of me that would help me be a non-threatening black girl in some cases, or an around-the-way girl in others. Another part of this project was to interview an expert on the topic you chose, and I chose Cheyenne Cochran, who did a TEDx talk a few years ago about the impact of hair, more specifically, black hair. A part of my identity that I know plays into how I cover myself is my hair, so I thought that speaking with her would be one of the most insightful expert conversations I could have, and I was correct. One thing I was able to take away from the talk was that my hair is one of the first things people see about me, and whether I like it or not, my hair will always tell a story about me. It means that every time I change my hair, my identity changes with it, and more times than not, people will feel the need to comment on my new identity change. This constant need to be perceived a certain way leads to me being a different person around different people. It's also the reason why I hate mixing friend groups. I feel I am forced to be a different person around all of my friends, which is one of the perks of living in a big city. I can be anyone I want. I have so many chances to reinvent myself. Overall, this constant need to change myself depending on my environment leaves me in an identity limbo, struggling to find out who I truly am. There's also this constant need to make sure that my inner circle of people, who I feel most natural with, is a group of people that I trust a lot. Though I have people who I feel I can be my most authentic self with, I still feel that I haven't really met the most authentic version of myself. I've adopted many identities for myself, and no matter what happens, I'm never able to feel like I'm being real, like I'm being fake no matter what. A fraud. Okay, so let's break down what I'm saying into numbers, something that everyone can understand. As of 2015, the National Science Foundation says that the science and engineering community is made up of about 48.7% white men and another 17.9% white women. When you add that up, you get that the engineering field is 66.6% white, leaving just over 30% of the field to be filled with Asian, Black, Hispanic, and other men and women. Knowing I want to go into the engineering field, I feel that I have to make myself more acceptable by white standards. I have a higher chance of success in my field because stereotypes and rumors will always be a part of life. If I did want to find solidarity among the Black and Hispanics, only about 4.3% of Blacks become engineers and about 7% of Hispanics. Dicey odds, if you ask me. Planning my future, I know that I will more than likely have to be one of those minorities that has to play nice. I will have to try to avoid talks about certain politics, certain movies, certain experiences, because they will make people think I should be lumped into the ABW, or for those of you who don't know, the angry Black woman category, meaning what I have to say will stop holding as much weight. The whole idea of my talk is to explain to people that being different in America is not as praised as we would like to think in our new, more liberal 2020 lives. Most places in America are still run by white, cisgender men, and that is going to be a reality for quite some time. Even with the impending future, there are rumors of non-Hispanic whites becoming a minority in America. I want everyone to understand what it's like to be born into a world that tells you you are special, and being different is a good thing, but still expects us to wake up and fit the American mold in order to live successful lives. I want everyone to understand that I look like I'm living a great life, and I am, no doubt, but I still have to start my day, every single day, knowing I was born into a world that makes it hard for people to be different, and still fight knowing that if I don't, I'm not only hurting myself, but everyone who believes in me to break the status quo. Everyone who was always there to congratulate me when I succeed and stand by my side when I fall. All the people who came before me who are not able to have the same opportunities as me because of life knocking them down and still having to find a way to get back up, knowing that when they do, has presented a whole new set of issues. I cover myself so that when I do succeed, I'll be able to wake up one day and be exactly who I want to be, knowing that I carry all the people who lifted me to get here because they knew that when I got to the top, I'd pull them up. I've always known that there are some things I will never be able to have. Certain things like hand-me-downs from generations past, but I soon realized that my skin, my hair, my name, they're all things that have been passed down for so long and tell a story greater than any family heirloom could ever. And it took me a very long time to be able to come to that conclusion of acceptance. I had to learn that I have to accept myself. I have learned that I live my life this way for the people who help me every day, who are strong and independent and always fighting for me to be my best. The people who I will never be able to succeed without. I also know that one day I'll be able to wake up and finally say, what is there to hide? I'm accepted the way I am. Thank you.